The photo that ignited the internet never looked like it carried any real meaning. And at first glance, it simply appeared to show a slimmer Caitlin Clark standing on the sideline at Lucas Oil Stadium while fans reacted to her noticeable weight loss. And social media churned through theories about her training, her mindset, and even her health. People studied every pixel of her appearance, yet the real leak sat a few inches away, hiding in plain sight in a moment that seemed completely ordinary. Standing beside her was not a casual supporter or a family friend passing through the frame, but Alan Zucker, one of the most influential agents in sports and entertainment. And once viewers recognized him, the entire conversation shifted. The moment that image made its way online, anyone familiar with the business side of athletics understood exactly what it revealed, because Caitlin Clark had already made a quiet but decisive move and replaced her longtime agent, Erin Kane. No press release marked the change, and no announcement explained it. One unplanned photo exposed a power shift that women's sports had not seen in years, and while the internet believed it was dissecting a body transformation, the truth was that a new chapter had begun. The story behind that single frame reached far deeper than anyone scrolling through the comments realized. Trouble inside Clark's circle had been building well before any change in her public image drew attention. And the first real strain emerged during the negotiation of the Nike endorsement that should have defined the early stage of her career. The offer totaled 8 years and $28 million, a sum that sounds impressive until it is placed next to the audience numbers she produced, the attendance she drove, and the cultural influence she carried, which meant the deal landed shockingly low for a player of her stature. Executives familiar with her impact described it privately as a rookie-level contract aimed at someone far less dynamic, and fans who tracked her value wondered how such a modest agreement slipped through. What made the situation more troubling was the aggressive interest coming from Under Armour, especially with Steph Curry personally encouraging her and opening the path to something far larger. Since Excel Sports Management already represents Under Armour, the structure for a historic offer stood ready. Yet Erin Kane could not finish it, could not convert Curry's backing into real leverage, and could not spark competing bids. She instead guided Clark into Nike's offices with limited negotiating strength and far fewer options than she should have had. As more opportunities underwhelmed, Clark's team felt their confidence slipping because deals expected to reset industry standards kept arriving below projection, leaving influence, equity, and long-term earnings behind. By the time the Lucas Oil photo appeared online, the decision had already taken shape, and Erin Kane's removal did not stem from emotion or conflict, but from a clear evaluation of the numbers. The business had moved beyond her reach, and replacing her had become unavoidable. On November 23rd, during the Indiana-Ohio State game, that single photo of Clark began circulating everywhere. At first, it felt routine, just another courtside shot of the most discussed athlete in women's basketball. Yet viewers focused instantly on her weight, creating a rush of side-by-side images, theories about adjusted workouts, and speculation about whether she was preparing for a different playing style. The reaction grew louder by the minute and swept away the real story hiding behind her shoulder, because barely anyone paid attention to the man standing next to her. He appeared relaxed and unbothered, as if he belonged there. But he was Alan Zucker, a partner at Excel Sports Management who advises some of the most recognizable names in modern entertainment. Peyton Manning, Trevor Lawrence, and Taylor Swift are not simply clients. They are empires built through years of carefully engineered deals shaped in part by Zucker's approach. Once people who recognized him connected the dots, the meaning became obvious, and that innocuous snapshot confirmed that Clark had already separated from Erin Kane and chosen entirely new representation. Mainstream outlets overlooked it, yet online communities did not. And Reddit X and Instagram users quickly started zooming in on the background matching his face and identifying Zucker by name. Discussions soon linked his presence to the ongoing rumors about Clark's frustration with previous negotiations, and the public slowly assembled a truth that no reporter had broken. What started as a harmless viral moment shifted into an accidental announcement revealing one of the most important business decisions in women's sports. Alan Zucker's reputation goes far beyond simple contract work, and organizations across sports media and entertainment pay attention whenever he enters a negotiation, because markets tend to change when he gets involved. His client list includes Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Arch Manning, Trevor Lawrence, and Taylor Swift. Names that sit at the top of American cultural influence, and Zucker's work threads through the deals that helped them build long-lasting empires. Peyton Manning's earnings after retirement rose far beyond what he collected during his NFL career. Taylor Swift's touring and streaming arrangements reshaped industry expectations. And Trevor Lawrence's extension set new standards for quarterback money. Zucker represents talent while constructing long arcs for their careers, turning them into brands that generate returns long after their playing days. Erin Kane operated differently, focusing on immediate opportunities rather than building long-term systems. And she helped Clark collect endorsements without surrounding them with the broader structure they needed. Kane viewed Clark as a standout athlete in the women's basketball market, yet Zucker sees someone capable of anchoring campaigns across platforms, reaching vast media audiences, and creating revenue frameworks that continue growing well beyond her time on the court. Kane delivered visibility, while Zucker is positioned to deliver ownership influence and the kind of scale that can redefine an athlete's future. Clark made the switch for that exact reason, because moving from a mid-tier agent to Alan Zucker resembles trading a dependable family car for a private jet. And the difference is not just the quality of the ride, but the height you reach. Zucker works with people who already sit near billionaire-level conversations, or are projected to reach that tier through wide-ranging portfolios, and aligning with him signals that Clark is planning far beyond the next 5 years. She is mapping out the next 50. The message to the WNBA is direct, because Caitlin Clark no longer functions inside the league's traditional financial structure, and her deals and her brand now occupy the same tier as household names who exist well beyond sports. That shift is about to reshape everything around her. When news surfaced that Clark had signed an 8-year, $28 million Nike contract, the headlines framed it as a landmark achievement, and fans celebrated it while commentators praised the long-term security. Behind the scenes, the reaction was completely different, because insiders were startled by how small the contract looked compared to her impact on the sport. She had drawn millions of viewers to women's basketball doubled attendance for teams across the league and become its most recognizable figure. And 8 years at $3.5 million per season did not reflect any of that value. It resembled the type of offer given to a rising prospect, not to someone who had already changed the economics of an entire league. What made the gap even harder to ignore came from inside Nike, where Sabrina Ionescu, an elite player but not the global draw, Clark had become reportedly earned more than $5 million per year. Clark tripled viewership, shattered jersey sales records, and pushed the sport into primetime television. Yet she earned less. People who study endorsement structures saw that difference immediately and flagged it as a costly mistake, because Clark did not just earn below her value, she also lost years of potential equity. A shorter contract, a performance-based model, or an offer containing ownership options could have created massive upside, but instead, she was tied to almost a decade of fixed pay. That moment is when confidence in Erin Kane collapsed, since the Nike deal did not simply fall short. It showed she did not understand Clark's true bargaining power. For Alan Zucker, the Nike contract serves as an entry point rather than a final outcome, and he is known for dismantling undervalued agreements and rebuilding them with incentives, media attachments, equity windows, and structured renegotiation paths. Nike, along with every major brand, knows exactly who is at the table now, and when Zucker negotiates, the numbers tend to reset rather than increase incrementally. The Nike arrangement marked the end of the Kane era, but under Zucker, it may become the first major deal to be reworked entirely. When Goldman Sachs acquired a majority stake in Excel Sports Management for nearly $1 billion, most sports fans barely reacted, treating it like another corporate transaction far removed from what happens on the court. For people who understand how athlete empires form, that deal instantly changed the environment. Excel did not simply gain an investor. It merged with one of the most powerful financial forces in the world, and by joining Alan Zucker, Caitlin Clark entered economic territory no WNBA player had reached before. Goldman Sachs does not build simple sponsorships or appearance fees. Their work revolves around equity and ownership, with models designed to pay out for decades rather than a single athletic prime. When Excel's negotiation strength merges with Goldman's financial engineering, an athlete can evolve into a diversified business entity. This gives Clark the potential to secure contracts that offer partial ownership in emerging brands rather than single payments revenue-sharing agreements with tech companies, instead of basic sponsorships and long-term equity positions in consumer platforms, fashion companies, or media businesses built around her voice and image. These are the frameworks that turned Taylor Swift's tours into billion-dollar operations and transformed Peyton Manning's post-NFL life into a financial powerhouse. Under Erin Kane, Clark's agreements were direct and transactional. Under Zucker, supported by Goldman's resources, they become architectural, with each new contract carrying upsides such as profit participation, performance escalators, international expansion rights, and digital monetization channels. Because Goldman now owns a majority stake in Excel, they are incentivized to elevate Clark into the highest earning tier possible. She no longer functions inside the WNBA's economic system. She now operates inside the global superstar system, which guarantees that her future deals will not resemble the ones she accepted earlier in her career. They will be more complex, far larger, and structured to build wealth that lasts long after her final season. Insiders often point to a single misstep as the most damaging error of Erin Kane's tenure, and it centers on the missed Under Armour opportunity. Everything aligned perfectly. Excel Sports Management represents Under Armour, and Steph Curry, the brand's most prominent figure and creative partner, openly praised Caitlin Clark and hinted more than once that he wanted her under the UA banner. For an agent experienced in high-value negotiations, this situation was the ideal setup, a direct line from the league's most marketable rookie to a brand eager to reignite its basketball division. The path was clear, yet nothing materialized. People familiar with the discussions say Under Armour expressed early interest and saw Clark as the ideal crossover figure who could speak to college fans, WNBA viewers, young athletes, and mainstream consumers at the same time. Curry's team reportedly envisioned her as the future face of UA women's basketball and floated ideas involving collaborative projects and mentorship opportunities. With the right execution, the agreement could have matched the structure and influence of Curry's own line, and the potential scale made the missed opportunity even more damaging. Kane could not finish the deal, and she never used Curry's support to spark the type of competition that forces giants like Nike and Under Armour to outbid one another. She treated Clark's cultural presence like a standard sponsorship, not a rare form of influence that deserved a different level of negotiation. And she guided Clark into a long-term Nike contract that now feels small when measured against what might have been possible. This is precisely the sort of missed moment Alan Zucker avoids, and once he stepped into the role, Under Armour immediately returned as a realistic partner. Even if Clark stays with Nike, Zucker can use UA's interest as pressure, pushing Nike to restructure her existing agreement, raise the annual payout, or offer incentives that function more like equity. Conversations came close too early can now be revived, and a missed chance can turn into a powerful bargaining tool. In elite representation, these lapses translate directly into lost millions. Kane's failure to capitalize on the Under Armour connection did not simply shrink Clark's earnings. It demonstrated that she was not equipped to manage a star of Clark's size, and that gap created an opening for Zucker to redesign everything. Between the end of the WNBA season in October and Clark's appearance at Lucas Oil Stadium in late November, fans began pointing out how different she looked, and they wasted no time analyzing it. The muscle she added for her rookie season was fading, leaving her with the same lean build she carried through college. Some viewers believed she was overtraining, while others speculated that she was chasing more speed or battling an issue behind the scenes. As the theories multiplied, people closer to the business side saw something entirely different, because to them, this was not decline, but rebranding. Clark's Iowa frame had been her most recognizable version. The one appearing on Billboard's magazine covers viral highlights and historic broadcasts. It was the image that turned her into a household name. Steph Curry even pointed out that her shooting mechanics felt different when she was lighter, and a leaner body gave her a quicker release, deeper range, and a style fans instantly recognized. Insiders began murmuring that the shift was intentional rather than incidental, because once Zucker entered the picture, nothing about her public presentation remained accidental. He understands that global icons rise on recognizable silhouettes and consistent visual identity, and the Iowa-era version of Clark, the ponytail, the deep threes, the effortless glide across the court had already achieved that status. Returning to that look strengthened the brand he planned to expand. Fans may believe she simply lost weight, but the team shaping her long-term trajectory views it as a calculated recalibration, a return to the image that made her a phenomenon. Her physical change aligns perfectly with the timing of her representation change, and it serves as one of the foundational pieces in a broader strategy. This is not merely training, it is marketing. It signals that Clark is not preparing for a single season, but stepping into a new phase where every detail of her appearance helps reinforce the story she intends to tell. When the WNBA's current collective bargaining agreement ends in 2027, the entire structure of the league will be renegotiated, and for the first time, a single player enters that discussion with the leverage to alter the system. Clark earned $76,000 as a rookie, a number so small compared to the revenue she generated that it instantly exposed the gap between player compensation and economic reality. That imbalance no longer exists as a talking point. With Zucker guiding her career, it becomes a force. Zucker has spent decades shaping some of the NFL and NBA's biggest contracts, and he understands leverage with rare precision. He knows how to convert cultural impact into financial pressure, and he has turned network auctions and contract battles into record-setting deals for athletes with far less influence than Clark. During her first WNBA season, she produced more revenue than some franchises managed across 5 years, and her presence alone pushed ticket sales upward, boosted TV ratings, and pulled new audiences into the league. Those numbers give Zucker hard evidence rather than hopeful projections, and he can walk into negotiations with sellout data, merchandise spikes, and broadcast surges as proof of her economic weight. When the league argues for modest salary caps or gradual raises, Zucker can point out that Clark is not a typical player but a central driver of league growth. Under Erin Kane, Clark would have held influence without structure because Kane lacked the network and the strategic aggression needed to turn that influence into negotiating power. Zucker has both. With him directing the process, Clark is not just seeking fair pay. She stands in position to define what the next era of WNBA salaries looks like. For the first time, a player may set the market rather than accept it, and the league will likely look very different once those negotiations end. Erin Kane's removal did not erupt out of conflict. It was a deliberate shift, a calculated decision made once it became clear that Clark had outgrown the boundaries of standard representation and required someone capable of building a long-term empire. The public might never have recognized how large that change truly was without the leaked image that caught Alan Zucker standing beside her long before any reporting linked them together. That photo became the first glimpse of a new phase forming in real time. With Zucker leading her career, Clark has stepped beyond the business structure of women's basketball and into a global field shaped by equity partnerships, ownership stakes, media development technology ventures, and branding strategies designed to outlast her playing days. The Nike contract stands ready for renegotiation. New competitors are already preparing their pitches, and her next major agreement may force the entire WNBA to reevaluate how it treats its stars. The story now ends with a simple truth: Caitlin Clark did not just protect her career. She initiated a shift that may reshape an entire league.